Mr. Murthy GVS, Chief Financial Officer, Vodafone Idea Limited. Mr. Suraj Krishna Swamy, Executive Director, Investment Banking, Coverage, Axis Capital Limited. Mr. Ratnadeep Acharya, Senior VP, SBI Capital Markets Limited. And Mr. GB Jacob, Managing Director, Head of Equity Capital Markets India, Jefferies India Private Limited. I would now like to invite Mr. Suraj Krishna Swamy, Executive Director, Investment Banking Coverage, Axis Capital, to initiate the proceedings.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out to be here with us. On behalf of Axis Capital and all the PRLMs, I would like to welcome you to the press conference on the follow-on public offering for Vodafone Idea Limited. This is the largest FPO transaction in the country, and we are very proud to sort of bring this transaction to the market. We feel extremely privileged to be associated with a marquee brand like Vodafone Idea, with a great parentage of Birla Group and Vodafone Group. Vodafone Idea, as we all know, is the third largest telecom company in the country and the sixth largest cellular operator globally by number of subscribers. Through their pan-India network, the company offers voice, data, enterprise, and other value-added services, including short messaging service and digital services across 2G, 3G, and 4G technologies. Moreover, the company holds active licenses for NLD, ILD, and ISP, and registration for IP1 services. I would like to take this opportunity to shine the spotlight on Vodafone Idea's turnaround story and congratulate the entire management here for creating such a resilient business which has come back despite a lot of headwinds over the last few years. The organization positively focused on India's digital revolution, and we believe its competitive strengths are it's well positioned to exploit the growth opportunities in India's rapidly expanding mobile telecommunications industry. We'll sincerely like to thank the entire Vodafone Idea team, the promoters, Aditya Birla Group and Vodafone Group, for giving us the opportunity. What I will do is, before I hand over the dais to the management, I'll quickly talk about the issue itself, some key details about the issue. So, this issue is a 18,000 crore FPO. Price band is 10 rupees to 11 rupees per equity share, and the bid lot is 1298 equity shares. Issue opens to the public on Thursday, 18th April 2024 and closes on Monday, 22nd April 2024 with the anchor allocation scheduled for tomorrow, that is Tuesday, 16th April 2024. Despite the current market volatility, we have received strong interest from marquee anchors, which will be public tomorrow, and which is a testament to the conviction the investors have had in the organization and the management team which met the investors. Without taking much time, I'll quickly introduce the management team here who is on the dais. Mr. Ravindra Thakur, who is the non-executive chairman Vodafone Group, Mr. Sushil Agarwal, who is the group CFO Aditya Birla Group, Mr. Akshay Mundra, CEO Vodafone Idea, and Mr. Murthy, who is the CFO of Vodafone Idea. So I hand over the dais to the management to take this forward, please. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Suraj. Am I clearly audible? So a very warm welcome to all the media representatives who have joined us today. 5 years back, we had one of the largest public issues by any private company, a rights issue of 25,000 crores. And today we are again with you to launch the FPO, which I heard my banker friend saying is also the largest FPO in the country by a private entity. So great to be here, and I would take the next 25 minutes or so to explain you a bit about the India story, the India Telecom story, the VIL story and the VIL strategy, and how this round of funding is going to help us move forward. So first, in terms of an overview, Vodafone Idea has a large pan-India network. It has got strong spectrum holdings. It has got about 439,000 broadband sites and about 298,000 kilometers of fiber. In terms of scale and reach, we have 215 million subscribers, 487,000 towns and villages where we have our distribution reach. And with our network, we cover 1.2 billion of our population. We also have advanced technology which is supporting a good customer experience and for which we have received several recognitions and awards over the years. First, let me talk a little bit about the spectrum. As I said, we have a competitive spectrum portfolio. You could look at the spectrum portfolio through different cuts. We have presented 3 cuts here. One is spectrum excluding 5G per million subscriber base, spectrum excluding only the millimeter wave, which is not likely to be used soon, per million subscriber, and 5G spectrum per 4 million subscribers. The way you look at it, you will see we have a very competitive spectrum portfolio. We have 5G spectrum in 17 of our priority circles, which account for 98% of our revenue. And with this round of funding, we will roll out our 5G network also. Now, what is Vodafone Idea's strengths? Firstly, it is a trusted Indian brand with a legacy of 3 decades of operations, successful operations behind it. And the unified brand carries the power of 2 very strong erstwhile brands, Vodafone and Idea, into one. We have an extensive reach operating in 487,000 towns and villages, as I mentioned earlier. More importantly, we are covering 95% plus of the districts through our distribution reach, and that provides for a strong platform to reach the customers and to acquire the customers. In terms of digital assets, we have multiple digital assets, We app being the most relevant here, and I'll talk a little more about the app as we go forward. And we have a very strong proposition today where our gross adds share in the market is more than our customer market share, and investments in network coming out of this funding will enable us to improve that and participate in the industry growth, which has not happened in the last few years. Before I get into the industry, let me talk about our strong parentage. VI has strong parentage of two promoters, Aditya Birla Group and Vodafone Group. They have invested significant capital into the company. If I were to take what has happened over the last 5 years, a total of about 30,000 crores of equity has been invested, out of which 23,000 crores has come from the promoters. And as you would have seen the announcement, the preferential issue of another 2,000 crores has been committed by the promoters, which is of course subject to shareholders' approval in the next month. In addition, Government of India is a large shareholder in the company. Current shareholding is at around 32%. You are all familiar with Aditya Birla Group. It is a global conglomerate which is having a presence across 40 countries. I believe everybody is familiar with Vodafone India, but many people may not know that Vodafone, as a telecom operator, is the largest pan-European and African telecom company. So now coming to the growth opportunities that exist for the Indian telecom. I'm not getting into the India growth story because I think all of you understand the India growth story more than I do. So I'll not talk about that so much. But if we look at the Indian telecom story, it has the country has a large and a growing population, and ARPU, as we can see from this table, is one of the lowest in the world. If we look at a comparable economy like China, China is at $6.64 and India is at $2.08. So we are less than 1/3 of where China is today. So ARPU growth, ARPU improvement is one of the main drivers of growth. What are the other major macro parameters which kind of provide a clear indication of the growth potential? One is that 4G penetration is still at 66% only, and this figure for China again is 116%. So a lot of penetration to happen on the 4G, and if we look at the overall telecom penetration itself, it is only at 83%. And there's a lot of runway left for this penetration of 83% to grow further. And what is important in the Indian context is that wireless broadband still remains the main source of broadband across the country. So we've seen that fiber to home has shown some growth, but essentially the broadband needs of the country are today being met by wireless broadband. So that will be an important factor of the growth of the sector going forward. Now, if we come to the digital India, we all know that the government and the country has a vision of digital India which should grow. A lot has happened over the last few years, and telecom infrastructure will remain the backbone of digital India. The most telling statistic of the proliferation of digitalization or digitization is that the UPI transactions over the last 6 years have grown 750 times. And one of the important things is that UPI is again an application which almost each and every customer or citizen needs. And I would say that is a strong factor which would augur well for the penetration of 4G to grow from 66% upwards. UPI is the most telling statistic. The other areas which are driving this growth are e-commerce, increasing smartphone penetration, growth of data centers, and in general you are seeing that the data is kind of exploding all across the country through various applications. The other thing which is very important for any industry and any player in the industry to do well is the industry structure or the market structure. You're all aware that we were in a situation where we had 10 or more than 10 private players at one time. The Indian industry was very competitive at that time, but the challenge was that with so many players, they were sharing a part of a pie where no other country in the world had so many players. Since the last 5 or 6 years, we have consolidated to 3 players, and we right now have 3 private players, of course. We also have BSNL as the government player. And so I would say this is the right market structure for the industry to leverage the opportunity and move forward. We have seen that while this consolidation was in the works from FY16 to FY19, the industry saw a shrinking of revenue, of the industry revenue, by around 18%. But from FY19 to FY23, we have seen a rebound where the growth of the industry has come to a CAGR of 13%, which is a very positive sign. And so all the points that I mentioned earlier, growing population, need for penetration, growing digitalization, all these augur well for the growth of the Indian telecom industry. So then moving on from the industry to Vodafone Idea strategy. First of all, I would say that we've had this strategy for some time. We were not able to execute the strategy because of lack of funding. In the interim, when we were not able to invest as we would have wanted to, our focus was to ensure that we provide the best services to our customers wherever we have a coverage of network. While we had kind of given up on the ambition of expanding the network, particularly the 4G coverage at a time, but we continued to invest, and you would see here that we have been able to provide a very good 4G service wherever we have been operating. And this has enabled us to grow our 4G subscribers over 10 successive quarters, quarter on quarter for the last 10 quarters. Now, with the proposed funding plan, we will revert back to our original articulated strategy, which has got 4 pillars. The first pillar is focused network investments to drive coverage and capacity expansion. Here, our investment will be focused on our 17 priority circles. The second pillar is ARPU improvement and customer retention. And there, I would like to give you some data points. First is that the ARPU has increased by a CAGR of over 13% over the last 2 years. And we have seen also an ARPU growth for Vodafone Idea for 10 successive quarters, every quarter on quarter. So as we invest in 4G growth, 4G capacity, and 5G rollout, we believe that we will be able to participate in the growth of the industry. And another focus area under this pillar would be continue to drive the digitalization of various internal and customer-facing processes. The third pillar is focus on business services through telco to techco transformation, and I'll talk about this in the following slides. And the fourth pillar is focus on strategic collaboration to leverage digital opportunities. And again, this we'll talk about more in the coming slides. In terms of the first pillar, which is focused investments to drive coverage and capacity expansion, I must say that one of the highlights is that I mentioned that while we were not able to invest in expanding our coverage, we made sure that wherever we were operating, we had a good customer experience. And you would say that in the last 4 years, our data capacity has increased from 25 petabytes per day to 82 petabytes per day. So we have continued to invest in capacity growth to address the growing traffic demand of our customers wherever we were having a coverage already. So as I said that we are focused on the 17 priority circles, which account for 98% of our revenue and also 92% of industry revenue. On 4G, we will invest both in expansion of coverage and in increasing capacity as the traffic grows with the increasing demand. In terms of 4G, we will also be rolling out 4G on 900 megahertz, where also we had started investing, but those investments were curtailed due to lack of funding in between. On 5G, we intend to cover 40% of our revenue base in the next 24 to 30 months. And we will also focus on small cell deployment in large metros and cities because that makes a lot of sense there. So this would be our overall investment hypothesis. Now, one of the important things to understand, and this is very critical, is that while we have not yet invested in a 5G network, we have a network today which is built on 5G ready architecture. And if I were to give you some of the highlights here, in the radio side, 90% of our TDD radios are 5G ready. All new basebands which we have procured over the last 3 years are 5G capable. We have completed the 5G MRO obligation in 4 circles. And in our testing of 5G, wherever we have done, we have achieved speeds of 9.8 Gbps. So the testing has been done, and we just need to start deploying based on the tests that we have already done. In terms of core, we have a pan-India 5G NSA capable core network. And NSA, as you may know, is a non-standalone. 5G has 2 kinds of rollouts, non-standalone and standalone. Our network is today, the core is capable of doing a 5G NSA rollout across the country. On transmission, 90% of our optical endpoints are 5G ready. And we have also done IP intensification in our major cities, which again is a requirement for 5G. Moving on to our second pillar, which is build customer preference and trust. As I mentioned, this brings the strength of 2 erstwhile brands, Vodafone and Idea. And I'm sure all of you remember the Pug, the Zuzus, the What an Idea Sergi, and the Honey Bunny tune. And I do believe that we have a strong brand and a very strong brand loyalty, which will further help us to grow as we get back to investment. Our latest campaign, Be Someone's We, has also evoked a very positive response from all the consumers and the larger audience. And we will continue on this very successful journey of creating a strong brand and generating brand loyalty. Next in this is the ARPU growth. Now, as you would see that today, given the lack of our 4G coverage, 42% of our subscribers are still 2G subscribers. This is a bit of a reason why our ARPU is lower compared to competition, but this also provides us a big opportunity of improving the ARPUs by upgrading these subscribers. And as has been shown on the right side, today if you see the ARPU improvement when a subscriber moves from the non-ULD or the non-unlimited data category to the unlimited data category, the ARPU improvement is 3 times. So that is a strong opportunity. And besides this, we also have opportunity to drive the ARPU by way of additional content being sold, additional agencies, which is becoming a big market as Telecom becomes the largest vehicle of digital distribution across the country. The next driver of ARPU growth would be to say that the tariffs have been below a level where the industry can return its cost of capital. As I mentioned earlier, Indian ARPUs today are the lowest in all major countries in the world, and 1/3 of China, which is a comparable country. As you would see from the graph here, the data usage has grown by about 82 times over the last 7 years. The voice itself has grown by about 2.6 times over the same period. However, the ARPU has grown only by 1.24 times. So I think this is a common understanding that the ARPUs need to go up. Largely tariff corrections are required, and so that the industry can get to a point where it is generating sufficient returns to be able to make future investments. Now, as I mentioned that to improve our ARPU, we have to focus on what is the best for customer experience, and there we also have a lot of focus on digitalization of customer services. So we are currently focused on digitalizing any interface that we have with the customer. So today I'm happy to inform you that 50% of our service requests, whether it is a complaint or a query or an inquiry, they are all raised digitally and addressed digitally. We have also introduced an intuitive dynamic IVR, whereby based on your last transactions and events, rather than giving you a large menu choice, it will take you the 2 or 3 preferred menus where you have been transacting with us. And of course, if you want to select another menu option, that can be there. But to make the journey simpler, a lot of effort has been put in this direction. And we have a V priority where a dedicated service channel is provided for high-value postpaid subscribers. So there are multiple interventions and initiatives to kind of provide the best customer service and make it more and more digital. In addition to digitalization of our customer services, we are also focused on distribution, which is a very, very important part of the Indian telecom industry. And we have taken the steps that each and every part of the channel, whether it is distributors, promoters, retailers, they are connected to us on an app. So we have apps like Empower and Smart Connect. These apps provide real-time information to all the parts of the channel. So whether it is the company employees, whether it is the retailer, everybody can see what is happening in the market. The real-time information is available. So it enables the channel players to execute in the market. It enables the company management team to monitor the performance and make corrections or take actions as required. So a lot of work has been done in this direction. And today, we also have digital customer acquisition available in more than 100 cities, which means a person does not have to step out of his house, and they will be able to get a connection in any of these 100 cities. So you do whatever is required to be done at home, and a SIM card will be delivered to you. You put it in your phone, and it can be activated. And if you happen to have an eSIM, then a physical delivery of SIM is also not required. So a lot of focus on digitalization. The next pillar is focus on business services through telco to techco transformation. Now here, one of the important things is that we had a very strong position in the enterprise business. We continue to have that, but there has been a bit of a lack of confidence when there were concerns about before the reforms package. With the round of funding, we will regain customers' confidence and we will see a much better growth, I believe, compared to what we have seen in the recent past. So that is there. We will focus on growing on existing revenue streams through growing the main connectivity business. IoT is a very strong pillar of growth, and that would be one of our focus areas. And also we will continue to focus in other next generation services like cloud, edge cloud, security solutions and like. As I mentioned, IoT is a very strong and fast growing segment. We are the first telco to have an integrated end-to-end IoT platform offering, and we have worked with some customers, and this is definitely going to be something which will be very useful for the customers because there's end-to-end integration. We also have a very strong position in the IoT automotive market, which is the highest ARPU segment within the IoT vertical. And then there are many other areas like vehicle tracking system, metering, and metering today is mostly electrical meters, but it will expand to water meters, gas meters also in the future. And we are also India's first eSIM on IoT platform, which is compliant across various standards. We are also the preferred provider of end-to-end cloud services. There we are offering cloud services in collaboration with hyperscalers and co-location providers. And also we manage and own the end-to-end solution of this delivery to the enterprise customer. So we become a one-stop center while we are providing this in partnership with someone, but the customer has a single point of contact to approach us for any solutions. As a result of all these initiatives, we have received multiple industry recognitions, including some international recognitions like the Asian Telecom Awards. And the one I would want to call out is the CIO Choice Awards, because it is an award which is given by the customers themselves. The CIOs of multiple companies cast their vote, and we have got 7 recognitions in the CIO Choice Awards 2024. Now, moving on to the 4th pillar, which is digital and partnership. And again, a lot of work has been done here. We have different platforms to support consumer and enterprise customer needs. We are also working on deep integration with many partners. For example, we today provide credit scores to many NBFCs based on the data that we have about the customers. We are also providing authentication services to the same set of companies who can rely on our data to do the authentication of their prospective customers. And there are many partners which we are working on the field of digital, which is both global, national, and regional content providers, and also e-commerce platforms. In terms of digital ecosystem, I mentioned in the beginning that VApp is a very strong proposition, and we have been evolving this and growing this. Today, I think we are the only telco which provides a single app where all activities can be performed. So that is and a lot of work has to be done there. It's not just having about a single app, but you have to constantly optimize the app so that it remains manageable and doesn't become very slow. So a lot of work has been done there, and so we can provide every service to the customer on a single app, the V app. In addition, we have also recently launched what we call as V Movies and TV, where we are aggregating content from various content providers, including OTT players, and that would be another revenue stream and digital service from us. We are also looking at curated experiences like job search, education, English skills. So the digital portfolio and the digital offering on our app is constantly being increased. In terms of monetization through digital initiatives, this has again been a focus area. Now, of course, we have many digital assets. The monetization has started happening. This is a bit of a slow journey, but as I mentioned, we are offering credit scores and authentication services, which is a source of monetization. We also are using the data for targeted advertising, which has started giving a decent amount of monetization today. And we are also leveraging our digital reach to provide content, and also the digital marketplace we have launched, which again uses the reach, the digital reach of a telecom, where there is a lot of potential for future growth. So moving on from the strategy to some of the main financial highlights, the main things I would want to call out from here are that we have seen a healthy addition of 4G subscribers, and for 10 successive quarters, we have grown our 4G subscribers every quarter on quarter, and that has been true also of ARPU. It has grown for 10 successive quarters every quarter on quarter. And we have also demonstrated over the last 10 quarters a consistent revenue and EBITDA performance, despite the fact that we have made very little investment in this period. These are the financial KPIs, and the only thing that I would want to call out from here is that we have reduced our bank and financial institutions' debt by about 17,000 crores over the last 2 years. And today, while there's a large government obligation, but if you look at the banks and Financial institutions' debt, as on end of February, it is less than 4,500 crores. A lot of improvement has happened on the balance sheet from that perspective. So with this, I would just like to conclude my presentation and say that as far as this offering is concerned, number one, there's a great India story. Number two, there's a great India telecom story with the right market structure, with the population growing, with the penetration still well below global levels, and the ARPU increase, which will be supported by tariff corrections, upgradation of subscribers, and content and other entertainment or digital media of communication providing other revenue streams. From the point of VIL, I would say that it is a strong brand with great brand loyalty, strong promoters. Customer service has been a focus area. We have always demonstrated best use of capital. And with this round of funding, we believe that we will be able to back to participating in the industry growth, which has not been possible. The last but not the least important is that the government is a very large stakeholder in our company. They are the single largest shareholder in our company, and they are also the single largest credit provider to the company. So provides a strong platform for taking things forward with this round of funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That gave a very nice insight about the company and the operations. We now move forward for the Q&A session. A few things over here that we will be taking up questions from the audience right now, which is sitting here, and we'll also have questions from the virtual audience, which is out there. We do know that there are a lot of interview requests with us, but just to let you know that please reach out to AdFactors team for any follow-on interviews. But right now we are going to take only the questions in this forum. I think the first one is from Rima Tendulkar. I don't know. Yep. Okay. From CNBC.
Gentlemen, congratulations on the largest FPO that we've ever seen. I have a few questions, so I'll just take them one by one. With this fundraise, you will kickstart your 5G rollout. When do you think you will be able to complete a pan-India 5G rollout?
So, as I mentioned in my presentation, that our plan is to roll out 40% of our revenue coverage over the next 24 to 30 months. So that is our plan, let's say, for the next 2.5 years. We have all seen how 5G has evolved, and generally we will be calibrated in our 5G investments as we progress, because it is important that we deploy 5G where it makes sense. But in terms of an overall target is 40% revenue coverage over the next 2 to 2.5 years.
Okay. On tariff hikes, since that's one of the major drivers for ARPU increase, when do you think we are likely to see a tariff hike, and your own expectation of how much are we going to see? How much can the industry absorb? The market, sorry.
So I would say that in terms of timing, unfortunately, I cannot give you any guidance at this point of time. I can only allude back to the factors which make the need for tariff correction very important. First is, as I said, India has amongst the lowest ARPU amongst major economies in the world, 1/3 of China or less than 1/3 of China. Secondly, none of the operators in India are returning their cost of capital, and you heard commentary from peers as to what is the ARPU level needed for getting to a place where you can cover your cost of capital. We are way below that. The third is that ARPU will increase just by way of upgradation. So on the point of tariff, difficult to say when it will happen. We have some expectation. I cannot mention that here right now.
But your own internal expectation, do you think it's likely in this calendar year after elections?
Unfortunately, it's a valid question, but I'm constrained not to be able to answer that at this point of time. In terms of size of increase, I think you have seen what kind of increases have happened in the past, and I would say that should be a reasonable way to think about it.
How much of, what about Industar's receivables? Have you earmarked, from the fundraise, how much will go to pay off Industar's receivables?
So I think we have given the details of the utilization of funding. Part of it is for CAPEX, part of it is for spectrum payments. There's an amount which is under general corporate purposes, which we can use as per our discretion. But you would have also seen the RHP that we cannot use the funds for making any payments to promoter or promoter group companies, and that would be the governing factor.
Okay. Just one more question. Just doing the math, if once the moratorium comes to an end in the second half of FY26, the math seems to suggest that it will be difficult for you to meet the obligations. What is the government's thinking on the way forward, since they are the single largest stakeholder? Is there a possibility we will see some relief from the government? Maybe the moratorium gets extended.
So let me answer that, and if Sushil or Ravinder want to add anything, I'll request them to do so. Fundamentally, if you recollect the reforms package which was announced in September 21, the government had provided for that the installment series which is arising out of the deferment of 4 years, which will start after September 25, as per the reforms package, that can be converted to equity by the government. So I would say that we plan to pay the government installments out of our cash generation. However, there is a government support available in the form of the reforms package, which states that some installments or whichever can be converted at the government's option. So the government support exists in a way there.
But that will entail a large dilution, converting some of those installments into equity.
So let's say that today the government is at 32% shareholding. With this issue making certain assumptions, they would get to a 24% shareholding. You can do your own calculation, but our rough sense is that if that conversion were to happen, they will probably not exceed the levels, or they would be in the ballpark of the levels where they are today. So I don't think that is a cause of concern for us.
Okay. And one final question, if you...
Can we allow
sure.
others also, please? Anurag. Yes.
Hi, Anurag Joshi, ET Now. What's the sense you have right now about the institutional commitment for the FPO? And the second part of my question is that, what kind of a retail appetite you see for VI? You're one of the 3 telecom companies in India right now. You have, of course, you have a brand recall. So how much of support do you see from retail investors for your issue?
Okay. So I'll let the bankers take that question. They deal with it day in, day out.
I think, as I mentioned before, we had an extensive roadshow with all the institutional investors, both international and domestic. And we have a good mix of both domestic and international investors participating in it. I would request you to just wait for one day. You will get the details by end of day tomorrow. From the retail perspective, I think we have just opened the issue, and retail marketing and HNI marketing will start today. So usually retail HNI has a good subscription when you have very strong anchor investors which will come in. And addition to that, in normal IPOs, as you mentioned, normal IPO, FPOs, you don't have such a big retail brand coming out. It's a very big retail brand. So from that perspective, we are positive that they should get good subscription from both the HNI and the retail investors also. But we are just starting the marketing today for the retail HNI part of it, so we have to wait and watch.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Ayushi from Hindu Business Line. A few questions. Firstly, it appears that this FPO has been underwritten to a large extent, and there is good interest coming from institutional investors across the board. Given that Airtel and Vodafone had applied for a curative petition with the Supreme Court in October, have you made any commitments to the investors there that you would be expecting relief on AGR payments from the court going forward?
So I think AGR or the curative petition is a sub judice matter. I would not want to mention anything about it at this point of time.
Okay, and
whatever has to be kind of done from an investor's communication is contained in the RHP. So you just have to go by the RHP as to what have we communicated to the investors. That is pretty much what we have communicated to the investors.
Sure. On the 5G rollout, you will be rolling out once this FPO comes into place. I just wanted to understand, in the future auctions, the auctions that will happen this year, will you be buying any spectrum, given that your 5G portfolio is not utilized at the moment?
So I think it is best for me not to comment about what we will do in a particular auction. All that we can say is that when I gave you a spectrum portfolio slide where it is clear that we have sufficient spectrum, so we don't have any need for spectrum at this point of time. Of course, we have some very little administered spectrum which is there, which will come up for renewal. I don't see any significant need for buying new spectrum other than the renewals at this point of time. But of course, participation in an auction is a matter of strategy, and I can't talk much about it here, except saying that our spectrum portfolio currently is quite sufficient to meet our requirements.
Okay. And lastly, just one last question. Just one last question. For the last 3 years, this Vodafone has been trying to raise funds and approaching strategic investors and all, and we have not necessarily seen much interest. For this FPO, it appears that it's going to be successful. I just wanted to understand what is different. Can you summarize it for us that has made this FPO, given this FPO positive?
I mean, I would only say that the government conversion was an important need for the investors to come and invest in the company. That happened somewhere in February last year. Post that, we have been engaged with investors, and then we have come to this point where we feel confident about raising the funding. So there's a right time and place for everything. But before the government conversion happened, there was a bit of a concern on the part of the investors. The reforms package was announced, but the government conversion had not happened, so we had to wait until then.
Yatin, please, and then followed by that is Sriram.
Couple of questions actually. Obviously, the objects of the issue say that you will be looking to largely, do capex for 5G services and upgrade your network. But for the last 4-5 years, we have seen your market share down by nearly 12%. Your net worth is almost 1 lakh crore negative. And most importantly, you have been losing, subscribers. Your ARPU is almost 20%, 25% lower than your second largest telecom player, which is Bharti. In a scenario wherein your balance sheet is weak, you are still, trying to incur capex. I just want to understand how does this help, in gaining market share or probably retaining your customers. And, with respect to ARPU also, you have still a lot of subscribers in the 2G, space. So how, you're looking to get them higher up the value chain and increase your ARPUs?
Okay, thanks. Many questions into one question. Let me see how well
I'll have a couple of follow-up questions as well. But why not repay? Why not rationalize? Yeah, why not repay debt when your net worth is almost 1 lakh crore negative?
No. So I think we have to. One is distinguish cash flow and the net worth. These are, I think, two different questions. So let me kind of address where do we think or why do we think we will have a much better performance. I think I will put it in perspective that if you look at the last 10 quarters, we've had very little capital investment, and we have, as I said, we have consistently, despite our losing subscribers, and I'll talk about that a little more, we have been able to grow our 4G subscribers. So overall negative, but 4G subscribers have been growing. Our ARPUs have been growing consistently, and you will see that if you look at the percentage ARPU growth, of course on a different base over the last 2 years, we are competitive with our competitors. The reason why our current ARPU is lower is a matter of customer mix. As you mentioned that we have a higher number or higher percentage of 2G subscribers as opposed to competition, and that is the reason for the lower ARPU per se. Otherwise you'll see our tariffs are in line with the highest tariffs in the market, so that is not the reason for a lower ARPU. Now, two things. One is, if we have more 2G subscribers today, that provides a larger opportunity of upgrading them to 4G, and that is one driver of ARPU growth. The second is that even in this period where we have made very limited investments, and as we have also mentioned, that our share of new customer acquisitions continues to be higher than our customer market share. So why we still are net loss of subscribers situation is because of lack of 4G coverage primarily. That is what we are going to address through this investment. And once that is addressed, and given the quality of our service, given our strength in acquiring customers, we believe that we will be able to turn in a much better performance. And if you will see historically, when you start participating in a larger geography, which is where we are not participating in a large 4G geography today, certain gains are, we believe, will come.
And about the negative net worth, how you plan to address that? Do you think you will be able to generate sufficient cash over the capex and the FPO money that you are?
I think at this point of time, we are not so much focused on the net worth part. The more focus is on seeing how the cash flow is managed, how the investments are made. The net worth will get addressed over a period of time, but I don't think that is a focus area for us right now.
Thanks.
Hi, Shiladitya Pandit from Informist Media. Just one question on the timeline for the 5G rollout. When do we expect it? This year? Because you did your testing, of course, 2.5 years back when the trial spectrum was rolled out. So what is the timeline that you're expecting post the fundraise?
I think, again, I will not be able to give you an exact timeline as to when 5G will come. As I said, in 24 to 30 months, we intend to cover 40% of our revenue base. Of course, if that were to happen, it would not start after a long time, it would start soon. So I would say that this 24 to 30 months timeline that we have for covering 40% of our revenue, this should start soon after funding is done, ordering is done, equipment start coming. Generally, it should take a period of 6 to 9 months for the rollout to start.
Sriram, please.
Akshay, Sriram from Reuters. Here, when you were talking about the 5G rollout, I didn't quite understand this metric of 40% of your covered revenue. Could you just explain that metric a little bit?
So basically, the point is that you could look at a population coverage, but as far as 5G is concerned, we are more focused on the revenue coverage. So let's say for every district, in fact, we track revenue on every site basis. So which means if I have to aggregate my sites, the number of sites I will cover would be sufficient to cover 40% of my consumer revenue base today. That's the meaning of that matrix.
So would it be accurate to say that you plan to cover 40% of your current customers?
It is not necessary. 40% of revenue may not come from 40% of customers.
Got it.
Sorry.
हाय सर नमस्कार, मैं सौरभ जी बिजनेस से आपसे समझना चाहूँगा सर यहाँ पर
सॉरी
सर मैं आपसे समझना चाहूँगा कि जिस तरह से आप जो है एफपीओ की शुरुआत कर रहे हैं उसके लिए आपको शुभकामनाएं। बात की जाए अगर FY25 के एंड की, तो किस तरह का जो है आप अपना मार्केट शेयर देख रहे हैं वायरलेस सेगमेंट में? इसके साथ ही सर मेरा इसके साथ एक सवाल और है, जिस तरह से अगर बात की जाए इन्वेस्टर्स की, तो क्या किसी इन्वेस्टर्स की तरफ से सॉफ्ट कमिटमेंट जो है वो हम अभी तक देख पाए हैं?
आपकी शुभकामनाओं के लिए धन्यवाद, बट आपने जो दोनों सवाल पूछे इन्वेस्टर से रिलेटेड, उसका जवाब सूरज ऑलरेडी दे चुके हैं। और आपका पहला जवाब है कि सवाल है कि FY25 में मेरा मार्केट शेयर कहाँ होगा, अनफॉर्चुनेटली उसका भी मैं फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग स्टेटमेंट कोई दे नहीं सकता।
तो सर अगर बात की जाए प्रमोटर्स की तरफ से, तो प्रमोटर्स की तरफ से भी कुछ कैपिटल इन्फ्यूजन हम देख पाएंगे इस FPO में?
प्रमोटर्स FPO में तो नहीं करेंगे, बट जैसा मैंने बताया था कि प्रमोटर्स ने अभी एक प्रेफरेंशियल अलॉटमेंट का हमारी मीटिंग हुई थी और उसका शेयर होल्डर्स अप्रूवल 8 मई को शेयर होल्डर्स मीटिंग है। एक बार वो हो जाता है तो 2075 करोड़ रुपए प्रमोटर्स की तरफ से भी आएंगे, नॉट एज अ पार्ट ऑफ FPO, बट उसके अलग से आएंगे।
सर एक आखिरी सवाल आपसे ये समझना था, जिस तरह से आप अपनी स्पीच कंटिन्यू कर रहे थे तो आप क्रेडिट स्कोर की बात कर रहे थे, तो क्रेडिट स्कोर क्या है और वो डेटा शेयरिंग जो है उस बारे में आप कुछ रोशनी डाल पाएँ तो?
वो क्रेडिट स्कोर बेसिकली ये होता है कि पहली बात तो ये है कि इसमें जो भी गवर्नमेंट के प्राइवेसी लॉज हैं उस सबको फॉलो करके होता है, पर यह है कि हमारे पास जो डेटा होता है कस्टमर का, उनका यूजेज पैटर्न क्या है, उनका पेमेंट पैटर्न क्या है, उसके बेसिस में हम लोग अपना एक क्रेडिट स्कोर बनाते हैं, जो कि NBFCs जो हर जने का सिबिल स्कोर तो होता नहीं है, तो उसके लिए वो दूसरी तरह से स्कोर हम लोग निकालते हैं। लोगों को वो यूज़फुल लगता है तो वो उसको यूज़ करते हैं, तो वो है क्रेडिट स्कोर हम देते हैं। इट इज़ जनरली कॉल्ड टेलीकॉम क्रेडिट स्कोर, आई थिंक।
शुक्रिया।
Hi, Dipti from Mint. So my question is, in a scenario where the FPO remains undersubscribed, what are the options for the company? Will promoters put in more money, equity, or will the debt portion from banks become higher?
Yeah, hi. So just to add to that, as per the regulation in an FPO, the promoter group cannot participate. So the earlier question was, will the promoters participate in the FPO? As per regulation, no. But as Akshay mentioned, the promoters have already pumped in through a preferential allotment more than 2,000 crore. Now, just to get slightly more technical, for the FPO to go through, as per the SEBI regulation, we need 90% subscription. Sitting right now, we are very confident that we should get good investor interest, especially once you see the anchor investment list that comes out tomorrow. We should be in a good space to kind of give that positive signal to the market at large.
Thank you. Hi. This is Smriti from NDTV Profit. Good afternoon.
Mike.
Here.
Mike,
Hi. My first question.
Can you be a little louder, please? But I think the mic is.
Yeah. Hi. Smriti from NDTV Profit. Good afternoon. My first question is, are there any conversations going on with the government in terms of the debt that will be due from FY26? Apart from the relief package that you mentioned, is there any scope for this to get deferred? Are there any ongoing conversations?
I would say there are no ongoing conversations, and I would say today this is still 18 months away, so there is no need for having a conversation today in my view. Also, as I mentioned earlier, there's a reforms package which covers that situation if government support was to require. I think what the government will do and what engagement we'll have with the government is a matter to be decided at that time. There's nothing which is being discussed with the government at this point of time.
Right. Have you given any growth guidance to the investors for the road shows that you've been doing? Any sort of revenue and cash flows any targets that you expect to meet in the next 2-3 years?
No. I think whatever we have to communicate is there in the RHP.
And last question. Last question.
Come back.
Do you have any commitments? You approved a debt for 25,000 crores, right? Are there any commitments from banks to raise this debt post the FPO? Do you have any sort of commitments?
So we are engaged with our lenders for a fairly long period of time. I think I'm not allowed to comment beyond that at this point of time, but we have been engaged with them for quite some time. That's all that I can say.
Hi sir, Himanshi from Economic Times. Just a follow-up on the previous question on the debt funding. Given that the equity round looks quite positive this time around, are we getting good interest from the banks? Can we expect some of the big banks to come forward? And besides your equity and debt, are you also looking at monetization of your data fiber assets? If yes, how much does it add to your corpus? Thank you.
So two things. As I said, we have been engaged with our banks for quite some time. Beyond that, I'm not able to comment on that. And as you will see our RHP, there is no mention of any asset monetization. So I would say there's nothing on the cards right now.
Thank you.
Ben.
This is Ben from the New Indian Express. Can you just speak about give some details about the capex needed for the 5G rollout? From the FPO, what is the capex you plan to allocate?
So I think we have kept somewhere around 5,000 plus crores out of the FPO, 5,720 crores, which is given in the RHP. But just want to be clear that this is only part of the funding, and whatever are the proceeds of the FPO out of that 5,720 crores will go. That by no means mean that is the only investment in 5G or any other category for that matter.
No. You have planned to roll out in 17 circles, the priority circles. So what is the capex you need for the complete rollout?
Again, I will not be able to give you that quantification. But as I said, out of the FPO proceeds, we have allocated 5,720 crores towards 5G rollout, and our overall plan is to cover 40% of our revenue base over the 24 to 30 months.
That you repeated. I'm asking what is the capex for that?
I will not be able to give you that guidance.
Okay. And also the 17 circle coverage, is it dependent on the debt raising that you have, 25,000 crore debt raising that you have? If that doesn't happen, will the 5G rollout get staggered or delayed further?
So as I mentioned that we have an overall funding plan. Bank funding is a part of that funding plan, and our total capex is coming out of a mix of equity and debt, is all I can say.
Okay, thank you.
Brijesh from Z.
मेरा एक सवाल ये है कि पिछले महीने बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का एक ऑर्डर आया था इनकम एस्केपमेंट पे अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 43,000 करोड़ का, जो कि वोडाफोन की जो प्रीवियस एंटिटीज़ थी तो उससे रिलेटेड था, उसका क्या इम्प्लीकेशन आप देखेंगे, समझा सकें अगर तो?
सॉरी, एक बार आपका सवाल वापस बोलेंगे जरा?
हाँ, वोडाफोन की जो प्रीवियस एंटिटीज़ थी पहले की, उनसे रिलेटेड 43,000 करोड़ का इनकम एस्केपमेंट का ऑर्डर था बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का 19 मार्च को। तो उस ऑर्डर के क्या इम्प्लीकेशंस आप समझते हैं अभी की स्थिति में कंपनी पर?
अच्छा, तो इसके बारे में अभी आपको मैं जवाब नहीं दे पाऊंगा, बट हमने जो भी डिटेल्स ऑफ लिटिगेशन है, एक तो उसकी डिटेल दे रखी है। ये कोई जजमेंट ऑफ 43,000 करोड़ बोल रहे हैं, जहाँ तक मुझे मालूम है वोडाफोन आइडिया से तो डायरेक्ट इसका रिलेशन नहीं है, बट लास्ट ईयर जो नोटिस इशू हुआ था वो वोडाफोन आइडिया के नाम पर ही हुआ था 19 मार्च 2023 को। अच्छा, तो लेट्स से इसका जवाब मैं अभी आपको नहीं।
So let me answer this. जितने भी litigations हैं जो है RHP में covered हैं, आप ज़रा एक बार दोबारा हम चेक कर लीजिएगा, बट all litigations that we believe are required to be covered are there in part of RHP.
बट ये काफ़ी लेटेस्ट है, इसलिए शायद नहीं होगा।
RHP भी लेटेस्ट है।
Okay.
Swaraj from Money Control.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Swaraj here from Money Control. Couple of questions. One being.
Last two questions. Yeah.
Wanted to understand how involved was the government in the pricing of this issue, given that you mentioned they will be diluted to 24, which is less than say a critical threshold of 25, where they can probably exercise some control and vote on share resolution. So, is it fair to assume the government's blessing is there to this pricing of 10 rupees of the floor price?
So I would say government is a shareholder. The decision of pricing the issue is with the company. Like any other shareholder, they do not have a direct role to play in the pricing.
Okay. And second question would be, I think it's mentioned that almost 25% of the FPO proceeds will be general corporate purposes. And there's a long laundry list of end users over there. So could you just give us the top 2-3 purposes for which you might use that amount, because that would be around 4,500 crores something, which will fall into that bucket.
नहीं, तो ये आप RHP देख के नहीं बोल रहे हैं, आप अपने अंदाज से बोल रहे हैं। अगर आप देखेंगे कि 18,000 करोड़ में से almost 15,000 crores is going for specific purposes, so that amount cannot be more than 3,000 crores. And the basic definition of general corporate purposes is that the company will decide what is the best use of the funds. So there's no specific use which is planned as of now.
But you would have some use cases you were already planned for something, right?
I think we'll decide as things progress. We've not decided anything.
Okay.
We've got some online questions now and then we'll have to close. This is from Danish Khan ET. Will VIL look at giving 5G contract to non-traditional vendors to save on capex?
I think this is a vendor strategy. I will not be able to comment on this, please.
Jatin Grover from Financial Express. What are your plans for satellite communication, especially when competition Jio and Bharti's OneWeb are venturing into it?
I think as we have mentioned in our presentation and which I presented, our current focus is on 3 areas. First is expanding our 4G coverage. Second is increasing our 4G capacity in line with the demand growth. And the third is rollout of 5G, and these remain our priorities for now.
And the one last is from Gulveen Olak from Mint. Where do the discussions stand with equipment vendors for 5G? How soon after the FPO will the orders be placed? I think this is again for 5G.
Okay, so we have been engaged with our vendors on 5G for quite some time. Of course, as you all understand that any ordering is dependent on funding. So once the funding is there, our effort will be to expedite the ordering as quickly as possible. A lot of groundwork has happened. The trials have happened with these vendors only, so there is a fair amount of work which has happened already.
All right, I think that's up with all your Q&As. Now let me invite Mr. Ratnadeep Acharya, Senior Vice President, SBI Capital Markets Limited, to give the closing remarks.
Thank you, Bakul Bhai. Good afternoon, and thank you for a patient hearing as well as very insightful questions from the members of the media. On behalf of Vodafone Idea, SBI Capital Markets, and my fellow book runners, thank you once again for being here and sparing time to attend this press meet, marking the retail launch of the FPO of Vodafone Idea. The company has already given a very comprehensive presentation and articulated its growth strategy going forward. I would just like to highlight a few key areas of strength that Vodafone Idea is known for. With over 21.5 crore subscribers, Vodafone Idea represents the third largest telecommunications service provider in India today. It also is the sixth largest cellular operator globally in terms of number of subscribers in a single country of operation. In terms of the network, Vodafone Idea carried approximately 401 billion voice minutes and approximately 6 trillion megabytes of data on its network. Mr. Mundra has, of course, articulated the use of proceeds. I will not repeat that, but I would like to refresh the key FPO specs for the audience. The total offer size is 18,000 crores. The price band for the FPO is fixed at 10 to 11 rupees per equity share, of face value rupees 10 per share. The anchor book opens tomorrow, with the main book opening on Thursday, which is April 18th, and closes on Monday, the 22nd of April. The minimum bid lot is 1298 equity shares and in multiples thereafter. Once again, thank you very much for being here and request your wholehearted support in making this issue a grand success. Management, of course, is available for questions offline. Thank you.
The conference photograph, all of you, if you could just stand up over here for the photo. And I would like to thank all of you on behalf of Vodafone Idea Limited. Lunch is being served right across. Please do join us.